Good morning, friends. I hope you're well and having a good start to the day and that you had a great weekend. I was thinking over the weekend about what we should start creating this week, and I started thinking a lot about life underground, as one does, I guess. But I was thinking, we are all in our homes and staying close to home because of the pandemic. But sometimes I wonder what animals do and what they're up to. And sometimes I create little special worlds for them. Anyway, I have added some inspiration for this artwork on the Google Classroom as well as this video. And you can look at some of these illustrations to get some great ideas for your own underground world. Anyway, what you need is some kind of sturdy, strong paper. This isn't too sturdy, but it's pretty strong. You need a Sharpie marker and some washable markers and maybe some crayons if you have them. All right, and then of course a pencil and an eraser. So let's get started. So this is one that I've been working on. It is just a simple creature. I guess it maybe is an ant or some other kind of insect. I want to emphasize to you that you don't have to use a real life animal, right? You can create your own creature. Or you could use something like a mole or a rabbit who lives in a burrow, or an ant or a worm, or whatever kind of creature you'd like to create. I just want to emphasize that I want it to be unique and original. Now, when I look at this piece of paper, usually when we're drawing a landscape, our horizon line is way down here, and everything up here has to do with like maybe the mountains or the sky or a cityscape or something. But when we're drawing underground, that has to shift. So the largest part of our paper is going to be under the earth. So I drew a line up here about 3/4 of the way up, and that is going to be above ground, and the most important part is what's going to be happening below ground. Now what I did is I took my pencil here and I drew, it's almost like a maze. And I just created all these little bubbles or spaces for rooms that my creatures could live in. And I gave them the kind of rooms that we would have in our own homes, like a TV room, a bathroom, kind of like a hangout space right here, a kitchen and a bedroom, and so forth. I also created different ways for them to get to where they could how they could get into each room, like ladders, a rope, kind of like a diving board, another ladder, and all of those things you can be really creative with in order to figure out how to get into each space. Also, above ground, you need to figure out how they're going to get in. So I created this kind of old stump here and a slide that they could slide down. Then here is kind of a secret magic rock that has a door that they could go into. So I have my entrances, and now I have my maze, and then I start drawing details. Now, you don't have to draw a space, an underground space that has so many rooms. You could just start by making a large room, and that's perfectly fine too. So on this one, I drew my underground space a little bit further down. It's almost halfway, but not quite. Maybe 1/3 of the way down, I drew my line. And then I made the entrance through an old tree. And the way I drew my old tree is I'll just show you on the back. So here's my line. And my tree is like the letter H. I'm going to start by coming up like this. And maybe those lines are a little bit wiggly. And now I'm going to branch off almost to make like a kind of a really big Y, I guess. And now I'm going to start making these. This is the way I like to show kids how to create interesting branches. So I just make all these letter V's all the way through my work. So there's my tree. Now I could say you could see part of the leaves coming down like this, but that's all up to you. Now I like to make a lot of details, so I'm going to make kind of a cute little door here. And now I'm going to add some bark. And just these squiggly lines, swirly, swirly, just to make some bark, to add some interesting detail to my tree. Now I think I want to give them another entrance, so maybe what I'll do is I'll create a really big bush over here, and then I'll put another door, and then maybe this bush has some flowers on. Now to me, what makes an illustration like this the most interesting is by adding all these sweet little details that you might be prone to see when you're outside. Oh, I want to make 5 because as you remember, an odd amount of items is way more interesting than an even amount, which makes me realize I'm going to make some maybe big rocks over here. There, now I have these 3 items up here. Maybe I'll add some grass. All right, so now I'm ready to start underground. So I like to make a little tunnel, and then I just made a great big balloon. And what you want to remember here, friends, is the larger you make this, it's going to be easier for you to make details. So if I made just a little tiny, tiny balloon, then you're left with all this negative space that you have to fill up. So this, friends, is our negative space where we don't really have anything in it. I'm going to add another tunnel here to help divide up some more of this negative space. I'm going to take my eraser and just erase that line. All right. And then I can start by adding details. Now, if you look on this side, I started by making a table. And friends, all of our objects are just created by making shapes that are connected together. So for example, this is a rectangle. And I want to be able to see the top of the table. So I just made a long skinny rectangle and connected it here, just like that. And then I did the same thing on this side, another skinny rectangle, and I connected it here. And here are the 4 legs of the table. The ones in the front are going to be a little bit longer, and the ones in the back are going to be a little bit shorter. Now when I drew my rabbit, it was just a circle, and then this is kind of like a puffy letter V for his ears, and then some simple details for his or her face. From there, I would just add more and more ideas. Maybe he has his family here playing a game. Maybe they're like ready to have dinner, and they have these really big carrots that they found. And here's the plate, and there's their carrot, and so they're getting ready to have dinner. It's all up to you on what you want to create, but I want to encourage you to create as many details as possible. Now when it comes to coloring, what I want you to do is I want you to start coloring the negative space or the background underground first. And the way I did that is I took this brown washable marker, and you can use any color. If you want your underground to be purple, then make the underground purple. If you want it to be red, then make it red or green. You do whatever you'd like to do. So I'm going to take my marker here, and I am just kind of highlighting the edge of my little negative space here that's underground. All right, just doing that. Maybe I'll make it a little thicker. Now, one of my favorite things to do is to create some resist. And when you create resist, you can use something simple as wax crayons and your washable markers. Because as we know, wax and water, they don't really mix. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do some kind of scribbling here with my crayon. And I can press as hard or as soft as I want to. The harder you press, the more resist will be created. I'm also going to use some of this brown. Alright, and then I'm going to get started with my water. And maybe just add a little bit of this washable marker in to add some more color. Now when I use my brush, it's not dripping wet. Okay, you can see that. It just has a little bit of water on it. That allows me to control my color a little bit more. It also is really helpful if your paper is a little bit on the thin side. It'll make it easier for it not to tear. So I'm going to start adding my water. And once again, if you don't have a brush, you could use something like a Q-tip or a cotton ball or a small cut up sponge. It's all up to you. So what happens now is I've made a nice highlight around the little home or the little rooms of the underground, and I've created, you know, some contrast between the background space and the living space. And so I'm just going to continue over here. And you can start to see the resist. And you see how much more interesting that kind of looks than just if it were just brown. You could also take your wax crayons and draw some bones in here, or maybe some rotten vegetables or something. But it's all up to you about what you want to create. Now, I did go over everything with Sharpie in order to make it really stand out. And so I highly recommend doing that with a black Sharpie. You don't want to use a water soluble marker because then it will just get all runny. Now, I'll come back in here later with my markers and maybe do some highlighting, you know, in the bathtub and some of the fine details, but I probably won't color in every single room completely solid. But if you want to do that, that's completely up to you. I will also add some color up here to make it a little bit more interesting. Anyway, that's what we're going to be creating today. I can't wait to see your ideas. Make sure you put in plenty of details and just have fun with it. Also, I want to encourage you to start hanging on to your toilet paper rolls. We are going to have a toilet paper challenge next week, so we need enough of these to use them for 3 days. So start saving these and get outside today, enjoy the weather, and start finding your supplies that you'll need for tomorrow, like rocks and sticks and leaves and things like that. All right, take care and have a great day. Bye.